In this episode, we take a look at the reporting that plastics are being detected in people's brains. Hello, welcome to the Call Like I See It podcast. I'm James Keys, and joining me today is a man who brings the heat to every show. Show enough. Tunde Ogunlana. Tunde, you ready to give us a piece of your mind?
Of course, man. Let's do it.
All right. Now, before we get started, if you enjoy the show, I ask that you subscribe and like the show on YouTube or your podcast platform. Doing so really helps the show out. We're recording on November 25th, 2025, and I'm going to jump right in, Tunde. We recently saw reporting that scientists have detected microplastics, nanoplastics in people's brain. And this is like, causing inflammation, as you would imagine, creating problems. So what do you make what's going on here? Like, why do we have plastic in our brain? And what's your reaction to seeing this?
Well, my reaction is the same as all these headlines. It's just more anxiety. And it's going to make me do things to put more plastic in my brain.
Oh, my God.
Go smoke more weed, and I'm sure there's plastic bits in the joint paper. But
I doubt that's the reason for this. Because what they're talking about is like what you inhale. You open up a package or something like that.
I'm just saying that I think about all of it. That there's the plastic in a lot more things than I think we realize.
It seems to be it's everywhere. Like that seems to be kind of.
That's my point.
Yeah. Including everywhere in us.
Yeah, and so and look, it's on a serious note. I mean, we did a story, I think probably 2 years ago, a discussion about plastistones and how a reality that this isn't a joke, for people listening, that the Earth has already regurgitated enough plastic through the volcanic process and especially in the oceans that there's a new classification, a geological classification called a plastistone, which is when plastic and the molecules that form plastic and the molecules that form rocks actually fuse together when the Earth is regurgitating material through the volcanic process. So, if the geology of the Earth can be changed because of plastic, then it shouldn't be a surprise that our own biology internally, and those with other animals too, because it's not just us, will also show signs of changing along with the amount of plastic, the abundance of plastics in the world. So It's another example that we are our environment, and some of us understand that and some of us don't. I mean, that's
I think even a lot of times people don't want to deal with it, and so they make themselves not understand it. Because it's not a difficult concept to grasp, but a lot of times, remember, if you don't want to do something about something, or if something feels overwhelming or too big of a problem to deal with, a lot of times the natural reaction in your brain is to deny the existence of the problem. So we deal with that. We deal with a lot of reasons why we face a lot of resistance to there's people with a profit motive that are going to resist the idea of trying to be a little bit cleaner in the environment. Maybe not just for altruistic reasons, but because whatever's in the environment tends to make its way into us. And, there's profit motive reasons. There's just psychological reasons of the enormity of the problem. So, and then there's plenty of people that see that and be like, hey, we should do something about it. Let's try to do something about it. To me, my reaction is like, yes, the plastistones, as we talked about a few years back, that was, we can see, something plastic is in a volcano, or it's in some place with a lot of pressure, and then it gets fused into something else. And that's kind of a benign thing, though. It's kind of like, oh yeah, wow, plastic's everywhere kind of thing. That it's being incorporated into our bodies, I think that's like jarring to me. And the biggest concern I have from that is that it's being incorporated into our bodies in place of actual living cells. Like wherever that plastic is, that's not a new piece. That's not like, oh, I got an extra arm made of plastic. It's like, no, I used to have brain there. Now I have plastic. And guess what? The plastic doesn't do the thinking. So it's like, well, we're replacing our parts of our bodies, small parts at this point, but I don't know that there's some upper limit here other than when it just kills us. But small parts of our body that work, that do stuff, they're being replaced with plastics. by our body. Just this stuff's in there, and apparently, I guess the body's not able to push it out efficiently, or so much of it goes in that it can't push out enough of it, so it's just sticking it in places. And apparently, our brain is one of these places. So, I mean, to me, the bigger the other shoe is the one that I'm looking at. Well, hold up. What about the stuff that used to be there where the plastic is now? And what happens when enough of someone's brain gets replaced by plastic? Maybe they just sit around and doom scroll all the time, and they wouldn't be able to want to do anything else besides that.
Well, I don't think we need plastic for that. That one's already, that ship sailed.
Man, that was not because of the plastics. Hey, so for all it could be because of the plastics.
Yeah, no, I get the feeling that it would have happened anyway. I definitely think they're separate, but they're both problems for humanity. So here's the interesting thing, though, because there's a few other things to unpack, because it's not just maybe what it's replacing. It's the fact that it is causing the same harm as other things, but some of the other things are things that we can deal with in terms of how we eat and all that. So an example would be, last year I keep saying I had my first heart attack. And then I hear myself saying, I want that to be the only one.
It does imply that you'll have a second at some point, the way you talk about it. So.
Yeah, and part of it is, learning that I've got advanced artery disease, and it's hereditary. And so at my age, I have way more plaques on my arteries than I probably should. And a lot of that is caused by my liver producing excess cholesterol. And so but that's something that I can deal with by changing my diet, not drinking alcohol, certain things like that, so that my liver behaves differently. So what this microplastics runs the risk of doing is similar to what the plaques are doing to me now, which is they can clog arteries, capillaries, sensitive areas, like how diabetics can lose vision because of the sensitive nerve endings in the eyes that can get affected by too much sugar in the blood. That's what could happen with plastics, microplastics. But that's what I'm saying, is that at least with the artery disease and all that from a hereditary, or even if someone eats their way into having plaques, that's something that we can still deal with. Like I said, I can adjust my diet, certain things. It's hard for me in our society to deal with getting away from plastic. I mean, it's funny as I say that. I got a plastic water bottle. My phone is pretty much made of plastic. I got a microphone that I'm talking into that's got a bunch of plastic around it. The computer screen is made of plastic. There's literally plastic everywhere. And then the biggest one, as you mentioned earlier, is our clothes, because most of us don't have natural fibers 100%. Even
hey, man, I'm not going to stand by and let you disparage those clothes, man. That's a really nice shirt you have on.
It's
and for the audio
I can
audience,
feel it's got a plastic coating.
Yeah, it has a plastic coating, but that plastic coating says "Call it like I see it." For the audio audience, that shirt has "Call it like I see it" on it.
Yeah. So that's kind of my point, James, is saying that, and that's what I'm saying is that, like I realize with the way that we can get unhealthy and have these issues from a nutrition or a lifestyle standpoint. At least some people don't want to adjust, but those people that do want to adjust have the ability to clean that up. And with the plastics, because it's just permeated our environment so much, we don't have choices now. We're all susceptible to damage from this. And I'll finish with this and hand it back, because I just did my blood work last week. It was just interesting timing for us having this discussion. I did my annual checkup around this time every year. And so they sent me to Quest Diagnostics to get my blood work done. So I had heard about this, so I asked the nurse, and she have confirmed it. And what I heard was, you can ask now these labs, they can test how many microplastics you have per whatever in your blood, per millimeter or whatever,
or whatever
measurement,
measurement.
And they have measurements already, whether you have a high amount of microplastics, a middle amount, or a low amount. Like, they already have figured out what that looks like. So just saying that for the audience.
There's no zero amount.
I guess not. Yeah, it's just high, medium, or low.
Part
so
of the
there's no
zero.
Yeah, which is interesting. So I asked her, and I said, "Hey, can I get that test? I want to, know this." And it was funny. She just goes, "Yeah, I can't. we can't do it on this one because your doctor only ordered this. So I said, I got to go ask my GP then to put that on specifically. She goes, yeah, and then we can do it. So I go, okay. So I figure next time I go to him, I'm going to tell him, I want to learn how much microplastics I have. Can you tell Quest? And I go pay for it. So it's like, that's the thing, James, that I realize is this is so prevalent that the medical community already has a way to study this in us. And to your point, there's no level 0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of this, though, see, now there's a couple of things going on. Like there's maybe people might not be aware of this, but there's something that our body has called the blood-brain barrier, and only certain things can, so everything that's circulating in your blood can't get to the brain. There's a barrier there that your body, for good reason, because the brain is a very important part of our body, obviously, and so your body's very careful about what it lets in there. So not just this observation, this detection of plastics in the brain actually exceeds the warning level of just it in your blood or in parts of your body, because that means not only are they getting in, but they're getting through this blood-brain barrier as well, which is a higher level of alarm, particularly because, as you pointed out, the plastics aren't getting there. Now, I'm worried about the functionality that you may be losing, but in addition to that, what it also does is creates inflammation. It creates this inflammation. We've learned a lot in society over the past couple of decades as far as how inflammation, particularly chronic inflammation, not inflammation because I got hit in the arm and then I have some inflammation in my arm that's localized and temporary, and then that inflammation helps with the healing process, and then I'm good, in a day or two. But in chronic inflammation, where your body just stays inflamed, and that could be because of diet, that could be because of a lot of different things that you're doing that is keeping your body in this higher inflammation state, which causes a lot of chronic disease, ultimately. But what this plastic is doing is also creating chronic inflammation. And the biggest issue I see with that is that the plastic the plastic lives longer than us, so to speak. Plastic's going to be around millions of years. We won't. So this plastics that's going in there, unless there's some countermeasure that's determined to get your body to be able to excrete it, then to get it out, then it's just whatever comes in is staying in. It's just, if it's getting acclimated into your brain, which is the one I'm concerned about the most, but if it's getting acclimated into other things, then it's going to be there for the rest of your life, and it's just going to continue to accumulate more and more and more. So, I mean, we're entering a new kind of phase in this humanity thing. Everybody was like, oh yeah, we're going to have bionic this and bionic that. Man, your body's replacing stuff on the inside already. And, you're going to have a bionic brain. It doesn't work. It'd be my concern.
Well, it's sobering too, because they find plastics in placentas. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
That's another very sensitive area that your body tries to keep. Tries to keep very, very clean, does an extra effort.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that it's I was going to think I'm saying as a joke as you're talking, but it's not really funny. I was thinking I'm glad I'm going to die in 30 years. Seriously,
jeez, man.
Because this no, it's a kind of a joke, but it's not.
Yeah, I was going to say, but it's not a good joke.
On a serious note, because I'm not one of these people that's trying to live for 500 years, right? I'm 47, so I figure by the time I get to around 80, I'm good. And so that's 33 years from now. So my point is just saying that's what I'm saying is, honestly, it's sad, but I think about my kids, future grandkids, and you think about, okay, in future generations, they're going to look back at us and our parents and our grandparents, let's say the people starting from, let's say, the middle of the 20th century, and think, what the hell was wrong with you guys? Because this topic, as we're talking, reminds me a bit of the climate change conversation, even though I know it's different. But what I mean, the similarity is that this is something that's slow, that's not easy to see, and it requires a little bit of additional knowledge about things like science, right? How, from molecules to things like you're saying about being able to permeate the brain casing, the membrane around the brain, or like you said, that the placenta, also the body has much more protection in those parts of the body because of the sensitivity of it, the reproduction, all that. Well, you're a well-educated guy that has gotten that knowledge over years. A lot of people, people don't know this stuff. It's hard to tell them and get them to understand the risks of microplastics. Just like if people don't understand the idea of a greenhouse and greenhouse gas effect and all that, and the idea of warming, they can easily be led to believe that, we had an ice age, the climate changes all the time. What does it matter now? And not understand the input of fossil fuels and trapping heat inside the atmosphere.
And
And
also,
so
we didn't have 8 million people in the last ice age either. Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, the Earth is, we're not
driving
saying
cars,
the Earth is
right?
going to get
And
lost.
so,
We're saying that we are going to lose our habitat.
yeah, but that's my point, James, is that takes a little bit more nuance and people coming to the table with already a set of information that they can build on. And I think that's why this reminds me of it.
Well, hold on. It takes that, or it takes a level of trust, or people who are willing to build trust, and other people who aren't trying to undermine that trust for profit reasons and so forth. Because everybody's not going to understand all that stuff. But there's a lot of things that people don't understand that they then go along with. Like the medical community does a lot with birth, with birthing kids, and people don't understand all the stuff that the doctor's telling them and helping them out with this and that. And we don't need doctors to give birth, like people survived before there were doctors, like granted, we had much higher mortality, with birth.
Yeah.
But
you had to have 8 kids to have 3 survive back then.
Yeah, but there was a lot that happened beforehand. But there's a lot of trust involved with people talking to doctors as far as the birthing process. So there needs to be. You don't have to understand it all, but there has to be a level of trust. We just don't have that right now. Trust is hard to come by, in a society with as much information coming from places. But I know we want to wrap this topic. So,
let me finish on this as you relate to trust. That's very interesting. This is another thing that just happened recently, which this is good, timely conversation for. I had a lunch at a restaurant just like 2 weeks ago, and they had a paper straw. And it was the first time I've been to a place with a paper straw in a very long time. And I just started thinking, look at how this one little issue, the paper straw, made its way all the way up to a legislation in Congress, right, this year. And it shows how, like you said about trust, that's the issue I think we have here too, is that there's a lack of trust in messengers, and we have a fractured information system. And so I'll finish with this. The ability for us to deal with this, I think, is just not, we're not going to deal with it as a society.
It's been compromised.
Yeah,
but trust can be rebuilt. Trust can be rebuilt. Because
I think it'll be too late. That's my glass half empty.
No,
but that's what I'm saying, James. But that's what I'm saying. Just having this plastic straw, and it got a little bit wet and I thought to myself, think about how angry people got about just this symbolism. And it's just like, that was just trying to do one little thing, just to say, let's
make things a little better.
Straws out. And so that's all. That's why I just wanted to share that it just was kind of sobering.
Well, some of that though goes into the idea that's fostered that we're not all in this together, and so that's something that perhaps, as you've talked about on past shows, when you get to a certain point in Maslow's hierarchy and you don't really recognize it, and that something like the straw becomes something that's animating to you. And it's like, I'm so angry about this straw. And it's like, it's because all this other stuff that is much more important than that has been taken care of for you. Not really due to much effort on your part, but you feel like, you feel like you hit a triple, but you've just been born in a society that has you on third base.
Yeah.
So
maybe if we had mortality rates at birth like we used to have 1,000 years ago,
then people would appreciate things a little bit more. I mean, and I'm not saying we need to go back to that, but what I'm saying is that some of that may just be because of all the successes. People had a lot more trust in science. You go back 70 years, and so forth. So 70, 60, 80, whatever, like in that time period, a lot more trust. That's been deteriorating as, you can say it's an inverse relationship to how many sources of information that people are consuming, which, and I'm not again saying you need to restrict sources of information. I'm just observing that that's what's happening. But to me, whether this can get better, it is a question of timing, as you pointed out, whether this can improve in a certain amount of time. But also, it's just going to be, I don't think we should look at this and say, okay, we got to be back to where we were then or at a certain time, because that's just not the way things work. It's going to be different in the future. And so all we can try to do, we can't try to change like, look back, past few generations have really just dropped the ball, became so selfish, so greedy that could not do anything from a collective standpoint, from a human collective standpoint, like you go back to the 80s, they got rid of the CFCs and they're able to close the hole in the ozone. After that, we've been very scammed. It's been very scant on what we've been able to do collectively to help the world out. But these generations aren't going to be around forever. And so maybe the next generations may be a little bit more in tune with being able to work together to address problems. Maybe not. But the past, what the future is not going to be the past. The question is the decisions that are made today and in the future, how they direct the future. And I'm not pessimistic. I'm not optimistic. I'm hopeful though. I'm hopeful that the people that would observe how the past few generations have gone astray, down greed, down selfishness, can learn from that and then do better. Basically, would be my hope. So we're gonna wrap this
Well,
part.
that's nice. I'll finish and say I'm pessimistic, and I think the system's going to collapse.
No, you made that very clear, sir.
And we're going to be hunter gatherers in about 500 years or less.
Okay.
So that'll be it. So I'm glad. That's why I said I'm glad I'm dying in roughly 30 to 40.
So yeah, well, I'm going to wrap this section. We'll have a part 2 of this as well, also talking about something that is along these lines as far as our health and our bodies and so forth and our minds. So join us for that. Join us on future episodes of Call Like I See It, and we'll talk to you soon.